Hi, everybody. Monday on Astral Oracles. Sunday, the Arcturians will be joining us. I'm also beginning to share more of this general cycle of Arcturian content over at Coffee, and there's also another channel where you can join up. But thank you for being here and all your beautiful energy. I'm going to talk about sleep. Looked into dreams a while back with Guan Yin, but I think it would be interesting to look into the significance of sleep and spirituality. Um, like having lived with these kind of energy, Kundalini stuff for years, much of it has begun to settle, fortunately. But the one thing that really seems very persistent is a markedly altered sleep cycle. So I have a very hard time sleeping more than 3 to 4 hours, and I am incredibly sensitive to fluctuations that seem to be, what are they, like etheric, astrological, right? And so it's just been a full moon. It was overcast, and yet it was just one of these full moons where I woke up at 1 a.m. and I could tell that, oh, yeah, this is just going to be a very long night, and I haven't really gotten proper rest since then, I feel. And I assume it's the same for some of you guys, that, some of the full moons are just very, very powerful. Um, but that, of course, also tells us that there is something about energy in general that is stirring, activating, and is somehow opposed to the quality of rest, of sleep, of unconsciousness. What's sometimes called the rajas, I believe, in no, tamas, in as the gunas, right? The guna of consciousness, of heaviness, of sleep, that modality of reality. And yet, of course, it kind of takes up a lot of our experience, a lot of our time, right? We need to sleep, and also we can, of course, in our waking state, we also to some extent live for others, and that's probably a good thing. But I think Jung made the fairly basic observation, right, that it seems that what all of us mostly dream about at night is ourselves, and it's interesting how, spiritually speaking, there seems to simply be uh, something so deeply mesmerizing about the incarnational experience. So if you just look at how every one of us are really, really captivated by the very fact that we exist, then that is something that's going on, that we are someone right now, and who that someone is, which is also kind of invisible to us and often revealed in these murky, dreamy ways, is incredibly interesting. And then it also seems that, in dream state they have that type of access to a layer that needs to be unwrapped, understood, integrated, but that also speaks to a deeper layer of truth. And that seems to be also the traditional concept of it through history, this idea that the dreams hold a significance, that they need to be addressed, understood, interpreted properly, which turns up everywhere. Joseph in Egypt and stuff, right? That is kind of the idea that there seems to be like this layer of truth that wants to move in and work with us in the nighttime. But it can also do so through other people. So I had the experience of an old friend writing about a dream he'd had that was very, very significant to me, about a child, and all the Marys in my life, and crossroads and stuff, and it was just it's fascinating because I bet you've had that experience too somehow, that sometimes it seems like other people are giving revelations on your behalf. And what is that about? And then, the significance I had, it was funny in Italy, the last couple of weeks I was there. The dreams I was having, they were very much super mundane, like very, very boring, everyday realities, the scenarios that I might go through if I had been in Denmark and were unemployed and depressed and something, like really, like the idea that okay, this would be a kind of alternative, very, very bleak, non, non-fantastic, non-enchanted reality. And so that experience of me, of like my dream supplementing that kind of fairly weird out there, visionary, waking states that I find myself in a lot of the time, with then like generating something incredibly boring, gray, and mundane to kind of, I don't know, complement that, make me aware of something, was fascinating to me, because it of course also told me that dreams aren't necessarily fantastical, they're just supplemental somehow. And if our life kind of turns into a dream, then the dream has to turn then the dream has to turn into life, right? It has to become very mundane. So those are just some aspects. I did a long video on dreams, and it is something. There's also a session with Isis and stuff. With You can really go into it. I've been looking into it a lot, but I want to channel the god Morpheus here. And it seems very true to form that every time I look into this dreamy theme, it's just so hard to wrangle around. It does have sort of this some different mystery to it, and some different, like leading to sleep, right? Which is also the name for the poppy, the opium poppy in Latin, for instance, which leads to sleep. And you may or may not know, but for instance, the mystery novel was also conceived by the late romantics Wilkie Collins and stuff, through opium fantasy. So like this idea of the sleep, the vision that's occluded, that we're trying to unwrap and make sense of our lives. Why is that a thing? So let me try to bring Morpheus through for you, and I hope it serves you. Much love out there. Yep, yes, yep. Shifting in shapes as I am, and maybe I adapt to the situations that are necessary. I have costumes aplenty to come forward with. I come out of the dark with shapes, figures, and in these figures, sometimes your horrors are present, sometimes your dreams, sometimes fancies, ideas, premonitions, so unfinished that they can barely be described as the sense of a mood. But all these things, I come forward and I orchestrate them. I bend the fabric of the night. And so, as our friend here was musing along, wondering Why is it that he sleeps, that you sleep? And in that sleep, what dreams may come? The dreams of you, visions of yourself, tied down on one end to the idea of yourself that you walk around with in waking reality. And on the other hand, set free to bend this reality around yourself in ways where it seems that the only true parameter for the dream, notice this, the only true parameter for the dream is that when you become too irrecognizable to yourself in it, there is a type of law, of horror, we could say, that will necessarily lead you awake. This is what is sometimes known as the uncanny, this term of the horror of the dream state, that unknown within within the known, that has been studied by you in modern times, this feeling of something that is there, marking itself and everything out as different, and yet being with you right there in the familiar. Now, isn't this the nature of sleep itself? Isn't this the uncanny, unsettling element that breaks up the pure control, the clear horizons and skies of the daytime? Are you not reminded of your own limitations as a doer every night? That is nature. How much you may seek to change her and make her up, to dress her up and make her suitable for whatever ball or event you may want to bring her to, whatever job you have for her. But nature is not necessarily your fair lady. Nature is the great wild untamed one. And so notice here then, our friend, that it is this wilderness that is reintroduced again and again. And this means exactly what you have sometimes approached as the suppressed, sometimes understood as the shadow. These things that have made themselves invisible to you in the light of day, simply by your preoccupation, not with the shadows cast, but with the figure in the foreground. So well, this backside, it must make itself known that there are still things alive within your construct of self that needs to be seen and addressed. So your concept, modern concept of dreams as a type of messages of the entirety of the self that can only be presented in an uncensored form within this nighttime wilderness, this natural stage where the wild things are. This is not a bad concept, but it is still a preliminary concept. It is the surface level of dreams. Because understand that the forces, you know them sometimes as deities, you know us sometimes and worship us in the shape of personified figures, but we forces that guide and guard the human wilderness, the human wild, within this mental garden, this flowering of human mentations that exist within your species. There are also things being brought forward by this wilderness. And though they may take root eventually in another part of the garden, they may very well arise from a separate corner. And so this experience that our friend here describes, that he experiences an old friend reaching out to him with a significant revelation to share, this experience you may have, that you feel messages in this format coming through other human beings, reaching you through animal guides or significant moments where the divine seems to reach out for you. This is a sign that the thing that is being cultivated or made whole, that is being rewilded at night in the process of sleep, this great wilderness of growth, this is something that's a nature unto itself, meaning it's greater than you. It's greater than the daytime concept of you that is trimmed, pruned, gardened into growing in certain patterns, bringing forward certain fruits, meeting certain expectations. And so it is in these cross-pollinations that drift through this nighttime garden of strange clues, ideas and premonitions. It is through this that you may also find yourself repollinated, bringing forward strange fruits, combining what you have already been growing with new and wild codes flowing in through the nighttime airs of that Garden of Eden that you walk in your dreams. because this is the fantasy space. And the reason that you are, let's say, constructed or orchestrated at the moment in this way, where your consciousness separates the often fantastical content into nightly visions, that the magic where you can float and recreate reality at will, that is reserved for your dream life. The reason for that is that the continuity in your self-concept still relies very much on the physical energy that defines it. So what I mean by that is, you will find that you are very defined by your idea of yourself. And that idea of yourself is underpinned by constant physical cues of who you are. Meaning you wake up in the same room every day, usually at least. You do similar things. You speak to similar people. You relay information within a certain horizon. All these things are ways that your reality is set, orchestrated, and created and made safe for you. And so the magic space is there to gradually break up that reality. So notice that just as the dream breaks up once you become irrecognizable, in waking reality, you are constantly focused on being recognizable to yourself. And this constant focus is actually what creates your reality. It is quite subconscious in the fact that it is a set of deep assumptions about the way everything is and will unfold and have been unfolding that is creating you. And so the sleep is devoid of these assumptions. And this is why it can then probe and reprogram you, but only within the parameters where it can then begin to meet and reintegrate. So notice that dreams that are too far from what the conscious mind is able to hold, it will simply push away completely. That is, that the work will then only have been done on the energy body, which is also of a certain service to you. But just understand that you are a continual pattern. And as you become more and more of that energy, of that life force, you also find that these continual stabilizing patterns, that they begin to recede, they become more dreamlike, more fluorescent, we could almost say, in their potential radiance. So notice that you will, for instance, often wake up and have the sensation that you may be somewhere else. You will wake up and have the sensation that you may be someone else. But that this is a type of addendum, this is an extra experience that's adding itself onto the things that you already are. So this is also why you then find that sleep diminishes as energy flows into your experience. Then coming to the circle of this moon, where our friend here began, this idea of the sleepless night with the full moon, It is this idea that energy itself, and energy is often very manifest in light, for instance, but energy itself is pure and open potential. And when pure and open potential is present, it actually begins to break down these frameworks that it flows through. So you will find that this repurposing that takes place in nighttime through the dreams, this expansive adaptation of your understanding of yourself, it is essentially blocked by the influx of radical energy, because the influx of the radical energy has the same effect, but in a far less subtle degree. So it will simply begin to break down the qualities or distinctions and boundaries of your self-concepts, and then repiecing them together at a different level. So this is why sleep recedes as you begin to accumulate more energy, because you're already then being repieced together at a level where sleep doesn't need to fulfill quite the same levels of psychological decompression or holistic reintegration. Instead, you find yourself awake and adapting to the dreams, to the reconfigurations, to the literal light codes hiding in the moonlight, in the light of this star, the sun, that inflames the mood and the passions of this planet. Therefore, I, Morpheus, I have joined you from this sleepy garden where dreams walk about, shaking hands with each other. Meet me there. Come drink from the fountain of vision. I'll see you in your dreams. Blessed are you. Farewell. I hope that served you guys. Maybe it was a very long message. Again, a beautiful but also a hazy energy for me to hold. I hope it made sense for you. Much love.